All right, everyone, let's just work through one at a time. Just kind of have a video here so you guys can go back and look to see where mistakes you might have made or places that might have confused you. We're going to start with number 1, 4b squared plus 2b minus 42 equals 0. First thing we want to check is equal to 0, so that's good. So we're ready just to kind of plug in our a, b, and c values. I always like just to kind of highlight the numbers, so that 4 there is going to be my a value. Always remember the signs are also part of your b and c values. So that b value is a plus 2. And in this case, the c value is a negative 42. So a is 4, b is 2, and c is negative 42. So when I go to plug those into the quadratic formula, a is 4, b is 2, and c is negative 42. So as I go to type it in, x equals, negative b is the first thing. So that's the opposite of my b term. So since my b term is a plus 2, I have to put a negative 2 in that spot. Now I'm to the plus minus sign, so I'll just copy those down. And now I'm to the square root sign. So square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. So let's start with the b squared part. If my b is 2, then I know that 2 squared means 2 times 2, so I can use my calc or just do 2 times 2 in my head. I know that 2 squared is going to be 4 in this case. Minus 4, that's a minus sign on our calculator, always a 4, times our a value times our c value. So I just put the parentheses there. That's going to be my a value in this spot. That's going to be my c value in this spot. So I just look up here. My a value is 4, so I'll put that in the a spot. And my c value is negative 42. So on a calculator, that's my negative sign. And then I can't forget to divide by 2a. So divide by 2 times a. Now I like to do this in my head just so I don't have to put it in my calc. 2 times a is 4, so 2 times 4 is 8. So that 8 comes from the 2 times my a value. So that's our first step, is just to write that down. And now I'm going to do the inside of the square root on my calculator. So I'm going to show you the calc in a minute, but I'm going to just type in that 4 minus 4 times negative 42 on my calculator. So I'm just going to grab the calc. And I'm going to type in 4 minus 4, so I'm going to use the minus sign, that's this sign right here, 4, and you can use times or parentheses here, times the 4 times the negative 42. So I'm just typing in everything there. So 4 minus 4 times 4 is a lot of 4s times negative 42. And I hit enter and I get 676. It's going to be a big number. Sometimes it's a small number. Just because it's big or small doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. Just double check that you typed in exactly what you see. So in this case, 4 minus 4 times negative 42. So I get 676. So now I'm going to rewrite that as x equals, and I'm just copying this down. So negative 2 plus or minus, again I'm just copying, square root, but now inside the square root we said that was 676. Again, that's the number I got when I typed it into my calculator, all divided by 8. At this point we're ready just to type in our last step, which is to get our final 2 answers. And so I'm going to grab my calculator and type in the top, negative 2 plus the square root of 676. If you want to close the square root, you can. Now I don't want to hit divide by 8 yet because it would only divide the 676 by 8. So I'm going to hit enter, so I just do the top, and now I'm going to divide it by 8 and get an answer of 3. So I'm going to get x equals 3 as one of my answers, so I'll write that down. But because it's a quadratic, I expect 2 answers. And the other one's going to be x equals, and so I'm going to go back up and retype this line right here, but instead of negative 2 plus, I'm going to do negative 2 minus. Now you could retype it all, negative 2 minus, or if you just hit the up arrow on your calculator, you can go back. If I hit it twice, I go back to the last thing I inputted, and I'm just going to scroll over to the plus sign, and then now I'm just going to, while it's just highlighted over, I'm just going to hit the minus sign. If you went back, and you could change it back to a plus, but that just lets you overwrite anything you're on. Hit enter, and now I'm to that part. Now I have to just divide by 8 again. So don't forget that last divide by 8. and I get negative 3.5. So my two answers are 3 and negative 3.5. Now that I'm all done, I realize that I wasn't really solving for x, I was solving for b. So really these should say b equals 3 and b equals negative 3.5 if I was really paying attention. Quadratic formula works for a's, b's, or I mean b squared, c squares, x squareds, y squares. But in the end it solves for that value. So technically this is b equals 3 and b equals negative 3.5. And then you can always flip it over and just double check that you got the right answers. And so the answers were 3 and negative 3.5. And so, yep, I got the right answers. The order doesn't matter in the way you write them. You just need to have both. So that's number 1. Check out the next video if you need help with number 2.